the biggest job that was done over the weekend in terms of European action was that done by Ulster with their victory over Sale on Saturday evening. Seeing through that yellow card for Ben Doak in the second half, and getting over the line those late tries from Rob Herring and Dwayne Vermeulen. It's job done, Gordon, in a sense, for Ulster. They're getting that away last 16 tie against Leinster for their reward. But it's a strange reward where, and we talked about this a little bit, I guess, where you can get through to the knockout phase of the Champions Cup by winning one match. So for as much as you want to congratulate Ulster, it highlights a flaw in the competition for sure.
Yeah. Like, I think we've all but agreed on despite the media offensive that went on from the Champions Cup organisers recently to try and justify it. This is a triaging stage to get to the last 16, and there was a couple of interesting encounters. There's been a couple of enjoyable games to watch, but really when you're looking at Gloucester qualified, Ulster qualified, in the previous formats, anybody that hasn't deserved to qualify doesn't, whereas now you're kind of going, this is just a filtering out of what 4 teams in each group to get to the next round. And you would expect the matchups to reflect even more so who did well in the pool stages. The teams that got the home quarterfinals won more often than not, with the home quarters to be heavily biased in favour of them.
Matt, is there like a way around this other than just reverting to type and going back to what we did have pre-COVID?
Well, mate, the problem is, and Gordon's 100% correct. The problem is the French and English clubs want to focus on their competition. They don't want as many games, and they want to get to the money. So they want to guarantee a little bit more money. So the round of 16 is very lucrative, as it proved last year. So what these teams want, they want less pool games because they want to focus on the English Premiership and the top 14. And they want a round of 16 because they can get a fair few bucks out of that. So it's really diluted the value of the competition. As Gordon's 100% right. In the pool stages before, when there was six rounds, if you didn't have 4 wins, you didn't make it. And 4 wins got you an away quarter. You had to go through perfect, pretty much. Maybe able to drop 1 game depending on the year to get a home quarter final. 6 got you a home quarter final. Now, like 1 game qualifies you. It's a joke. Look, they've got to be really careful. I've said this a lot. Super Rugby. When I met Gordon there, I just finished coaching Super Rugby in Australia, and Super Rugby was so strong. Like I just thought it was going to power past everything in Europe, and it did for a time until they started mucking around with the competition, and it killed it. People lost interest in part of the competition, and you've got to say, with the numbers down at a lot of the matches, that people are seeing through this and saying, well, these pool stages aren't really what they were before, which was a real challenge and a really hard process to get to a playoffs, and then they're just not anymore, as we can see with Gloucester, who sent across a terribly weakened side earlier in the competition, and Ulster have had a bad run and get 1 win, and they make the playoffs. It's not right.
It's funny when you look at it with that view of the French top 14 sides and the English Premiership sides wanting fewer games but wanting to get to the money, without wanting to get conspiratorial about it at all, Gordon. If you look at the 2 sides who are heading into the Six Nations with the biggest injury concerns, it will be France and England. So they're almost paying the price for playing as many games as they do at a top level in their domestic competitions, with Europe on top of that. And then you have teams being able to go through with 1 win in the Champions Cup. So it kind of ends up suiting teams like the Irish ones.
I think, Richie, you would assume that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, in that the club game and the decision makers are not necessarily always aligned. So, in theory, you want less games, but how many? There's probably 1, maybe 2 less games in the current format. The mapping out of the rugby calendar in the Northern Hemisphere has proven to be very, very elusive. And it hasn't been finished. It hasn't been done well yet. I don't think. But it's a weird arrangement, because the clubs are desperate for this money that comes from Europe, but they don't necessarily want to be overly involved in it. They play in the matches that suit them, and then through like a bizarre quirk of the format, if you win one game, you get to the next round, and it's like two separate tournaments now. When you think about it, you have this qualifying period, or I was calling it a triaging period, where you're kind of filtering out the absolute no interest teams, but they've still gotten paid to be here. They just haven't lived up to their side of the bargain, and it all restarts now in the last 16 in April. So it is kind of two distinct tournaments, which it just feels weird.
Yeah, on that as well, Matt. It's a sense that you can't really have this triaging period, as Gordon calls it, and this filtering out of 4 to 8 teams, whatever, out of Europe and into the Challenge Cup, depending on where they land in their pools. But to try and regenerate that interest then as soon as the spring comes and as soon as the last 16 comes, you're in danger of driving away a lot of your punters and a lot of people who might have interest in it, and a lot of people might have passing interest in it, by saying that half of the tournament calendar, maybe even not even half the tournament games, don't necessarily matter. That's a dangerous game for a competition to play.
Absolutely dangerous. And Richie, you're dead right. And this is the problem. Like, people will start saying, well, these games mean nothing, and so we'll wait till April till we get involved. Now, last April, people did turn up in droves, but in the past, the Heineken Cup, as it was in a six match build up to quarterfinals, so many of those matches, they were playoff matches. You know, Gordon's played in so many of them, and back in our day when we were going through, you had to win that match because you didn't make it. And the people knew, the night knew, the atmosphere at the stadium was sensational. It was, it was very well followed. It was huge bums on seats. There's a real danger of losing that, and I think they have lost. I think people are onto it. You see, you've got your royalty. Saracens, La Rochelle are coming into it. Rogers pushed them through there. Leinster, Leicester, Toulouse, Exeter. They're the clubs that have always taken Europe to heart. Now, they were always there or thereabouts at the quarters. What this current system is doing is allowing other clubs to come in and share that money. And with one win in the competition, it diminishes the competition. And again, they diminished Super Rugby, and it collapsed in every front. On TV, bums on seats, interest in newspapers, media coverage, and so on. Heineken Cup was the best club competition in the world. There is no doubt about it. And by mucking around with it, they are really putting that in danger.
That was just a little taster of tonight's Monday Night Rugby with Gordon Darcy and Matt Williams. We will have another little soupçon from that elsewhere in our YouTube feed. Or if you want to see and indeed hear the full thing entirely, then all you have to do is subscribe to the OTB Rugby feed wherever you happen to consume your podcasts. And while you're there, check out a great little podcast called Rugby Daily. I hear its host is very, very good indeed.